Hey everybody, welcome to ShowCon. We're thrilled to have you today for this exciting panel. Whether you're a lifelong fan of all things creative or just getting started in the world of pop culture, gaming, and creativity, this panel is designed to motivate, educate, and empower you. This panel is called Streaming, Putting the On in Affiliation with Joe Garland, Michael Furman, and AshSaidHi. We hope you get plenty of insights from our incredible guests, and there will be opportunities for questions and or participation at the end. So sit back, get ready for some thought-provoking conversation, and let's make this an unforgettable experience. Okay, first question, just get us started. We'll start with you, Joe. What inspired you to get involved in brand management?
So what I have found throughout my life is the fact that I've kind of been radiating around this industry forever. Whether I was promoting my siblings to do a dance in the living room of our house, to helping to facilitate and promote local events, volunteering my time at libraries when I was a child to help them put on new things that were very focused on certain books or topics. And I just kind of kept gravitating. And at one point, someone looked at me and said, "You realize that's a job, right?" And I went, "Oh, I'm going to get paid for something I'm good at. Cool, let's go." But what I have found is that I absolutely love being the champion behind the creative. So I may not want to be on camera, ironically, but I want to be the person that makes sure that the person that wants to be on camera, gets to tell their story, gets to be their authentic self, and really put themselves out there. Oh, we can? Okay.
Yeah, that might also help.
My name is Joe Garland. I am a brand manager. I am a social media manager, but I also, my big kid job. I work in the creative agency for American Express, doing creative project management and brand safety.
Hi, my name is Michael. I'm a talent manager for Mythic Talent as my primary job. I also do contract work on the side for film and television. I do voiceover and other various jobs within industry. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is AshSaidHi, and I am a broadcaster. I mostly focus on Twitch. I'm a Twitch ambassador, and I'm also one of the co-leads for the Twitch Women's Guild. And on my channel, I focus on retro games. I love playing Nintendo games and indie games with a retro vibe. So like anything that's like low poly, pixelated, and the vibe of my channel is like, you know, like Mr. Rogers for adults, very cozy and wholesome, but also really fun. And I love conversation and connecting with people through the joy of retro. So, I don't know if you, yeah.
You get to answer the question.
Yeah, now, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, what inspired you to get involved in streaming?
Okay, so I always wanted to be in content creation. I worked in the games industry for many years, and because of the work-life balance, I wasn't able to really create content around the things that I loved. But once I left that industry, I was able to get into it, and I was like, oh man, I have a degree in graphic design and advertising as well. So I was like, oh, I really want to get into content creation, but I don't know where to start. So I, because of my advertising degree, I was like, I have to have a concept for my channel, right? Like that was the first thing that I decided I needed to do. And I was like, I wanted my, yeah. Yeah, you got to know how you're connecting with your people. Yeah, and on a human level, right? So I was like, okay, I wanted to feel like a family-friendly kind of like friend-ish environment. So that's where I came up with the tagline, don't forget to tell your friends Ash said hi. Ash said hi, ASH is my name, Ash. So yeah, it all like flowed together, and that was like over a long time of trying to figure it out. But then I was like, okay, this was in March of 2019, and then, you know, obviously, like the pandemic happened. I had gotten furloughed from my job, and then I started streaming on Twitch a lot, and I started making money to survive, like money that I could save and get myself out of debt and live a nice life. And it just snowballed from there. And then I became a Twitch partner in November 2020 and a Twitch ambassador in March of 2021. And I really love it. And the main focus and drive for me is making people laugh and connecting with people on a human level and having really great conversations and just like reminiscing over the games that we love. So that's what got me into it.
I guess I should probably answer the question now. As for me and how I got into this industry, I love what I do, I really do, and I'm happy I got in the industry, but I fell into all of it by accident. It was pure accident. I went to college for computer science, and then there was one day where I was sitting in class and I was like, I don't want to do this. And so I went to the dean of our college and I was like, hey, I need help. And I ended up getting a degree in communication, which then led to me taking an acting class, which led to me getting into to theater. And then theater led me into film and television. Then COVID happened for a few years. I moved to where I live now because I was looking for new like film and television work, but then all the jobs disappeared. And I started as a mod for, at the time, like one of Twitch's biggest streamers, and I started doing stuff for him, and I made a lot of great friends and connections through all that, and I really enjoyed what I was doing. Well, at one point, you know, like a few years later go by, and like one of my friends helped like with this company, and I was like, hey, you know, I work in film and television, and I do all these things, because all my work and stuff was just coming back. Do you need anyone else? And she was like, well, actually, we're probably going to be hiring here soon. I'd love to give you a recommendation and work with you because I know how you work, even if you don't have the experience that you need. But so I applied, I got the opportunity, and you know, just I've been rocking it ever since for the past like year and a half, you know. But I really love what I do. It's really fun to work with various talents and brands. I'm totally not saying that so that, you know, for posterity. No, I really do love working on both sides. And similarly to you, I've always found, while I do performance and I do voiceover and I do enjoy that, my passion has always been doing the background stuff for others to make them shine. When I was in high school, I learned how to do magic, and one of the things that stuck with me about performing magic is the real magic of the trick isn't what the audience sees. It's the things that they don't see. And so that's how I approach everything I do when it comes to my work.
Okay, next question. A common staple question a lot of people ask is, how do I get into this industry? How do I become an actor? How do I become a streamer? How would I, you know, get into, you know, brand, you know, advertisements? What advice would you give someone who is trying to break into your particular industry?
Do we want to just keep going in this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone has something? I have to think about it a little bit.
All right. How to get into brand management? It's definitely the backseat behind what you would normally see. So for like an influencer or anybody that is in front of camera, there is a lot, like you said, that happens behind the scenes. A lot of magic that you don't see. And what I've always recommended is, if you are not the type of person that wants to be center stage, figure out what it is that makes you, that still draws you to that industry. So for me, for brand management, I know I can look at a person and I can feel who they are. I can see their story, and I have this need to make them better. I want to promote you. I want to see you succeed. So if it's somebody that comes and says, I have 12 social media channels, they're all weird and I don't know how to make sense of it, I would love more than anything to sit down and go through every single one. Let's do a deep dive. Let's look at it, the strategy. Let's look at all of it, put this new package together and get them moving. Because then I get my happy by sitting back going, look at them. And if that's something that speaks to you, if that's something that really draws you, start looking at your different brands. Start seeing continuity in the world out there. So if you have a brand that you love, you know, McDonald's, look at them throughout history. Look at everything. See where they show up and see if you can find the commonalities. And if you can start viewing the world in that perspective, brand management becomes simple.
So for talent management, that one's, it's a little bit interesting because there are so many avenues that can be taken to how you become a talent manager. Like, I work with a lot of various different people who are from just all these different backgrounds. Some of them come from gaming, some of them come from like just business in general and all these things. But I think the best way I've found, at least where I come from, is just doing your best to help out someone is, I think, one of the best ways to, you know, become like, to start working your way in this industry. As I mentioned before, you know, I started as a Twitch mod for someone, and I became a Discord mod, and I just really enjoyed the support that I was given, and I showed that I really enjoyed the community. I helped build it and all these things. And sure, you know, like, there's no real degree that can say, oh yeah, you're now qualified to be a talent manager, right? Like, there's no business degree, but then, you know, there's no, you know, content creation degree either. It's all in this like vague sense. But I mean, there is a business degree. I didn't mean to say sorry, I didn't mean to say but I didn't get a business degree to get where I am, you know. And even though my degree is in communication, which is really, I use it every day and it's really helped me, I think one of the biggest things is being there for your talents and putting your talent first and seeing what their needs are, to kind of start learning through there. And you'll learn some of the business as you start working with people and all these things. Sometimes it's just, you don't know what you're doing, and that's okay. You have to be willing to learn. And for me, that's one of the most important parts of getting into this industry, is you have to be willing to learn and take the punches a little bit, because it's not easy.
Oh my God, I couldn't have said it better myself. Like, seriously, you really do have to be willing to be friends with failure, I think, in any aspect of this industry. I think if I was giving advice to somebody who wanted to become a broadcaster today, I would say absolutely think about why you want to be a broadcaster and figure out what you want people to feel when they interact with you, how you want them to connect with you, and how you want to communicate with them. Those are important because the whys are going to drive your strategy. So if you understand, like, okay, I want to connect with people through like retro games, then it'll help you figure out, well, what am I going to play? What am I going to focus on? And then who am I going to connect with? And then once you start connecting with people, they're going to want to come back. They're going to feel like, oh my God, I matter to this person. And a lot of what we do in broadcasting and creating content is like connecting with people, you know, creating that dialogue, me like with you, but then also me with, or you with the other people that are, you know, in our community that we build. So I would say that, and I would say figure out like if you can be consistent with what you do, because consistency will allow people to know where to find you, when to find you. And if people can't find you, like the platforms are not going to be kind and push your content out there because you made one video today. Like, you have to be consistent about what you do. And again, to reiterate your point, please be friends with failure. Don't feel scared to try things differently or experiment, and, you know, understand that your numbers are going to fluctuate, and that's okay. It's not a measure of you as a person.
I'd like to add on to that as well. Someone who works on the kind of the other side, like with various content creators, you know, the space is always changing. There's always something going on. There's always going to be, you know, new trends and everything. But for me, what I see the most success in personally is doing what you enjoy as a creator. You know, finding that niche and putting in the diligence to keep doing what you're doing. Sometimes, you know, some people are going to get lucky and they're going to explode overnight. You know, sometimes that one video just hits in the right way, but that's then what, you know, you're known for. One of the easiest examples I can think of is like Stephen He, because people know him as emotional damage guy, right? But then you also have instances where there are some who have over time, and like some of my talents are like this, they've built their community slowly and over the years, and those are some of the most like tight communities as well, because it's a base foundation and it's a slow grind. And sure, you know, maybe every video it's only like five new people coming to the video, but then that 5 will then become 10, and that 10 will become 20, and that 20 will become 30. It's all about like building your snowball and being passionate about what you do and putting in that work. Yeah.
I keep giggling because I literally did a panel earlier today about brand management and how to get started and how to build your own brand. And everything you both are saying was exactly what I was laying out as foundation. Like, tell your story, be authentic, give yourself grace, give yourself time, understanding that longevity actually has more merit than that flash pan. You know, yes, the emotional damage guy, we all know who he is, but do you know how much other content he has out there? And that's the chaos. That's the fun part. But I keep giggling because it's almost, one, it's reassuring. I know what I'm talking about.
There are people on your side. Don't worry.
I did it right. But it's also, it's 1,000% true. And it comes from every angle, whether you are the talent, the person that facilitates the talent, or the person that sets up the content for the talent to do. The threads are the same. Give yourself grace. Be authentic. Figure out your audience, and then just go.
We were actually talking about this before the panel started, how like we're all three of us are from like different aspects of that whole like interconnected network, you know, with Joe here as like brands, and so, you know, they're providing the campaigns, you know, our group talent managers helping with the execution, and, you know, Ash here being the person like the star and the one who's executing everything and what goes into that like team. And sometimes, you know, there are groups who form like just these permanent teams, or they'll work together with regularly, and other times it's one-offs. But in those moments of like, oh yeah, for this campaign, whatever's going on or whatever you're doing or however you're building your channel, we're a team, whether it be for a month, a day, a week, who knows. But then just understanding that and working with those people is the easiest thing. Oh, and communication is one of the most important things. If something happens, tell people, please. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to put you all on the spot here real quick. Could you share an experience or an anecdote that either changed your career or your perspective of it?
Sure. You want to start? Sure. Go for it.
I have plenty. The first time I was on a billboard in Times Square for Twitch, when I was selected to represent women on Twitch for Women's History Month, that was absolutely life-changing because it gave validity to what I was doing, you know, not just to me as a person, but to external people like companies, my family, you know, friends, anybody could like physically walk. I'm originally from New York, so I was like taking my friends like, look, there's my face. Yeah, that was absolutely like, it like totally changed. And then I also got cast for a TV show because of my front time page on Twitch. So that was pretty cool. You know, I flew to Australia and filmed the show. It was a reality show and I lost, but it was fun. And I gained a lot of perspective. But I think the biggest thing was becoming a Twitch ambassador because it allowed me a platform to help others grow. I do a lot of panels. I did 10 panels at TwitchCon that just passed, and I did a bunch at DreamHack and PAX and everywhere I go, because everything that I've learned through my years of doing this, I want to share with everybody. So like one story that I always tell because it really impacted me was at this TwitchCon that just passed, I was in the bathroom and there was a girl who walked up to me and she was like, "Are you Ash?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm Ash." And she was like, "Well, I don't know if you remember this, but 2 years ago at San Diego TwitchCon, you did a partner to affiliate roundtable where we went around and we went to different tables and we talked to affiliates and gave them like all of our tips on how to grow." And then she was like, "I took all of that advice and now I'm celebrating my first TwitchCon as a partner." That's real. You cannot like she didn't have to tell me that story, you know? And I remembered, like, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe. So anytime anybody's ever like, "Why do you do like all these panels and why do you run yourself so ragged?" And because everything that I do makes an impact on somebody, and that's extremely important. So that's why.
So mine actually, it falls in a similar vein. It's not as like crazy of a story, but I'm gonna split it into two parts, as like both sides from both talent and brand side. One of the most like changing things for me for what I do was the first time, like when I first started doing what I was doing, where a talent like approached me and like, "Hey, genuinely, thank you for all the work you do. I really enjoy working with you and all these things, because it's one of those things where in the moment, like when you're doing all your work and everything, there's this disconnect sometimes that you can feel like, oh man, am I doing right by them? Am I doing X, Y, Z? Do you feel comfortable? And because we can't read people's minds. Doing improv for years, one of the things that sticks to me is like, always be willing to speak your thoughts, because no one knows what you're thinking either. And so just having the moment when, like, the first time a talent said thank you to me, like, that was in some ways very validating, but also it made me feel, oh, I'm on the right course. I'm doing what it is. But then on the other side, I was also at TwitchCon, though a different reasoning, like different angle. One of our close brand partners that we work with, I went and said hi to them, and they actually like invited me out into an important dinner for them, because they really enjoyed working with me. And when we were at dinner and we were talking everything, they were like, yeah, I wanted to really invite you, and obviously all your other coworkers, to say thank you for the work you did, and are doing currently. They were such wonderful people, and they treated us which was really nice. I wasn't expecting it. It was one of the nicest meals I've ever had. And I'm like, oh, I've just been wined and dined. But it's those moments, like, even if they're small and they're the moments that people don't see, it's those moments that I think are important to me, just career-wise, where it's like, yeah, I'm where I'm at.
I'd say I have kind of like the similar, like, as soon as I found my position, everything started moving. But I mentioned as a kid, and basically my entire life, I've always been, behind the scenes, being that champion, being that cheerleader. I was a dancer for years and years, had my own studio, but I found I loved being either in the group in the back or the choreographer. I wanted to be the one that facilitated. I wanted to find the building, give the theme, so that that person could explode. And it didn't matter what job I found myself in. Even as a part-time cocktail waitress, I somehow ended up running their marketing and creating events for them to be able to promote the new drinks. I introduced programs everywhere I went, and I kept just kind of revolving around the same door. But no matter how much I argued against it, no matter how much I was like, no, I'm gonna be this corporate person and have this important job. Yet no, I kept failing. I would self-destruct. I would, I would sink my own ship. And it wasn't until I finally was like, okay, what is it that I keep finding myself in, and how do I make that? And like I said, someone were like, that is a job. That is a thing you can do. It's project management, it's brand management, it's social media management. And I went, okay, fine. And I leaned in, and I finally just kind of let it go. And from that point forward, I have learned more than I can ever express, but I've also found myself as a more passionate person. I'm able to speak from a place of knowledge and authenticity and passion. And it's led me to sitting here on panels like this. It's led me to being a spokesperson for another con. It's led me to, being that person within my company I work now that is known for being the culture champion, is known for being that person that wants to keep pushing and keep driving and being that force behind other people. So there you go.
Okay. If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Don't listen to your parents. I originally, when I was a kid, I knew that I wanted to do something creative and fun and spontaneous and adventurous, and I was told, you'll never make money and you'll die poor. Don't do that. You have to go to school and get a degree in business, and you have to work in corporate America. And as soon as I realized no, I started living more happy and a more fulfilled life and make more money now than I did in my corporate jobs. But that is the number one thing, is I wish I would have gone back and said, ignore what they're telling you and go after that thing you're passionate about, because I spent so many years doing it without it having a title or actually, getting paid to do this job.
If I were to go back and tell myself something, I think it's something simple, so simple, but I think it's the thing that's led me to where I am now is I'd go back and tell myself to keep caring, because of like I've found a lot of where I'm at because I cared about the people I work with. I cared about what I was doing. I enjoy my job not for the money or anything like that. I enjoy making these projects come to life, and I am fortunate to be in a position to where I can be here and do all these things, and that all these people support me, and I have all these opportunities. Like just even being here right now, and like when Bob reached out and was like, "Hey, do you want to run a panel for my con that I'm doing this year for the first time?" I was like, "Sure, yeah, I'll happily do it." But I care about like being here. Like I'm not just doing this because it's a cool opportunity. I'm doing it because my friend asked me for me to be here, and so that's what I would tell myself, to just keep caring, despite all the things that I went through growing up.
Those are very good. I would teeter on like giving myself some kind of esoteric like thing, like, Ash, don't worry, like there's no supposed to's in life, like there's no like you can do whatever, like literally. I really truly believe that now, but I feel like little Ash would be like, what does that mean? And then I'd be like, okay, here's some better advice. Trust yourself. I have learned that through the time when I worked full time and went to school full time and left that with like a 3.8 average, and like never thought that I was going to graduate college and all these other things. The reason why I was able to accomplish all of those really difficult things is because I trusted myself. And it brought me to everywhere I wanted to be. I always just say, just trust yourself and trust that everything's going to work out the way you want it to, because you are really you're really working hard to where you want to go. So that's what I would say.
Okay, we're going to try to lighten the mood a little bit, get a little personal. What is y'all's guilty pleasure in pop culture that you're not embarrassed to admit?
Could you elaborate? Okay.
I am a huge fan of 90s television. We had a heyday, the late 90s, early 2000s, and to this day, I will still watch Buffy on repeat. I will still watch Firefly without batting an eye. I will be sitting and doing a timeline for a client, and I will have Charmed going at full speed behind me. There's just something comforting about it, but I'm also showing my age. But anyway, moving on.
It's okay. I think mine's going to be a little bit more embarrassing. So this one, it's a bit more of a nostalgia thing for me. It's something I kind of grew up doing with my mom. But every year I love watching cheesy Hallmark Christmas movies. It's not because they're the best stories or the worst stories. It's because there's this formula, like this specific formula that Hallmark has, that's really fun to watch and be like, what are they going to do today? Oh, they have the best friend character, which means this is a story about independence. And they're going to get trapped in this small town and meet this guy who's a single dad. And like me and my mom, we would sit on the couch, right? And we would just like joke with each other about it. And so that always was like, and so Hallmark Christmas movies have this like special place in my heart. But anytime I tell people that I like them, they're like, how dare you? Although I do have a small goal that at one point I want to at least work on one so that I can put my name into like the credits and then be like, mom, look, I was in this movie or I did something for it. Yeah, but
That's good. I feel like, oh man, I really like the Housewives TV shows. It's like, oh man, and it's so bad too when you watch it. It's like so bad for your brain. Like, but I don't know. There's something about like those kinds of shows where you can just like turn your brain off and then just like sit and just like rest, like I don't have to think about anything. all the drama's happening in front of me. Good thing that's not my life. You know what I mean?
Let everyone be the worst.
Exactly.
You know? Like, oh man, that's not me.
Oh man, I'm such a great person because all this, no. But I don't know. I guess I feel like that's my way because, when in the work that we do, we're always on all the time. We're always having to do things and work and, be everywhere and have all the answers. So sometimes it's nice to just turn off your brain and just watch trashy TV.
I mean, even now I'm thinking about how many messages I'm missing. I'm like, oh man, I hope my talents don't need me. I hope the world is on fire. Oh, but it's really fun though. And like being able to turn off your brain and separate yourself from these things is really important.
Okay. So what is the weirdest or most unexpected thing that's happened to you, whether you're at a convention or at a grocery store or on stream or on set?
People don't ask questions like that usually.
That was a hard one too, 'cause it's like
What's your definition of weird?
Anything that's unexpected.
Um.
Random.
Unexpected or random? I'm gonna let one of y'all answer first because I don't know right off the top of my head.
That is actually a really hard one because I've gone through so much in the past few years. I think one of the hardest conversations to have is with a brand is telling them, hey, my talent just got hit by a tornado. Yeah, and trying to explain. They're fine. Okay. By the way, they're fine. But being like, how do I broach this conversation with a brand and they understand? I mean, you think they would, but sometimes.
There's timeline, there's budget.
Yeah, there's timeline, there's budget, and sometimes you got to figure it out. But that was an interesting day for sure. And it wasn't even the recent ones that happened. That's the even weird, crazier part.
Yeah.
Man.
I'm trying to think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess there was one time I was at the Nintendo store and Mr. Iwata walked in. That's pretty surprising. Yeah, and he was really tall in person. I didn't expect that. So I've been in a lot of places like, E3 or, trade shows and stuff where you're like, oh, I never thought I would be here at this very moment. And I think those are the fun things that I would be like, oh, that's that. I never thought that I would be doing that. So yeah, being at or even going to E3, for example, I never thought that I would be able to do something like that. And when I went, the year that I went, it was like the Breath of the Wild year where Nintendo had that huge Breath of the Wild. Yeah, it was so cool. And they had the big pot and it smelled like food and they did all these really cool things. So being able to say oh, I had the opportunity to go, that was really cool. And I didn't think I would ever be able to go to E3. So.
I guess in a similar vein, it was one of those moments of out of body experience. My inner nerd was losing its mind. I was working for a well-known brand that just so happens to really kind of double down on the fandom-based social content. And I was the project manager and brand manager, blah, blah, blah. And so it was the request of the client that they wanted to have a unique Magic the Gathering card created. And I went, okie dokie, and started just putting all the pieces together and finding the different PR pieces and people I needed to connect with and, sending messages through LinkedIn hey, you don't know me, but... And, fast forward a couple of months and, trying to appease the client, trying to make sure I get all the ducks to line up. And then I end up on a phone call with the creative directors and a couple of really high executives over at Wizards of the Coast. And I had to be professional and I had to be very on point and be very, cleaned up and buttoned up and speak like a, basically cosplay as an adult. Meanwhile, my heart just going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, the whole time because I have a stack sitting behind me and I'm trying not to show that, I know more about this than I probably should, considering I'm supposed to be corporate America. And I lost it. I made it through the meeting, turned off the computer and literally sat in my room going, for 10 minutes. Oh, sorry.
So you're gonna like introduce me to them after this, right? Right?
Yeah, right. Come on.
Yeah. So you're gonna be like, hey, by the way, let's talk and introduce the.
I didn't name names on purpose.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. All right.
Call me after.
Is there a piece of advice that you got early on in your careers that you didn't quite fully understand until much later?
Yeah, I'll let you guys.
Okay, the pressure's on. I feel like it's like all of the things that you would say are like cliche, you know what I mean? Like believe in yourself or you're capable of anything. But I think like the thing that sticks out the most is like you're capable of doing difficult things. And you could take it at face value and be like, well, what does that even really mean? You know, like it's such general advice. But to me, it means if I'm in a project or I'm doing something for my streaming career or I see an opportunity and I'm like, how did that person get there? I want to be that person. Like there's literally steps that you can take to get there and it seems impossible, but it's really not. Like I look at people who host things and were on stage and I was like in the beginning of my career, like how do I get there? That seems like an impossible task, but it's not. Like once you start to put yourself into like the steps of like, okay, I'm gonna broadcast more or I'm gonna make a reel or I'm gonna host my own, you know, like panel on my own channel and just do the little steps it takes to get from point A to point B, you'll start to see like, oh, this is how you get from just being somebody in the audience to the person on stage. So I think, yeah, like you're capable of anything that you want to put your mind to is probably like the one that I was like, I didn't get it, but now I do.
I'm gonna ruin the moment real quick. I just realized you have like Triforce earrings, and I was like, they're great. Anyway, I was like, my brain, like, I was listening to everything you said, but then my brain was like, oh, Triforce earrings, which makes sense if we're talking about Zelda and everything. The piece of advice I'd say that like I learned early on and then put into practice later in life it is just go up and say hi. It is one of the legitimately just go up and say hi because you'll never meet someone if you don't go and meet someone. You'll never talk to someone if you don't try and talk to someone or put yourself forward. And that's one of the hardest things to do in the world. As someone who is actually an introvert and taught myself to be an extrovert, it was a whole ordeal of learning how to do that. But a lot of my like closest friendships and the relationships I've built and have now and like everything that I do, a lot of it started from me seeing someone and going up and saying hi or talking to them or putting that initiative. And it's not just like saying hi either. It's if you see something that you really want to do or like, you know, and it's going up and trying it, you know, it's overcoming that internal anxiety, those doubts that tell you you can't do this, you're not allowed to. They're that thing or they're above you, you know, it's but then learning to overcome that and just being able to like do that, I think is one of the most valuable pieces of advice that I learned and I tell people to this day, like whether it be my talents or my friends or people or content creators who are always trying to like get in there or like work their way up. I'm like, if you have an idea, try it, do it. You like this person, tell them you like their stuff. Worst comes to worst, you know, they're like, oh, thank you, and then you never talk again. But they said thank you and they acknowledge you. Yeah.
I love that. That's cheating, but I love it.
all the time, I wanted to comment on this. All the time, I tell my friends, like, when they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go hang out with this person," I'm like, "Hey, tell them I said hi." Exactly. Even if they don't like know who I am, I'm always just like, "Hey, just tell them your weird friend MV says hi." You're right, because MV is what I go by online, and. Yep.
Yeah. You just understood my whole concept.
Yep, yeah, exactly. I do it all the time. Even with some of the other talent managers who are talking to their talent, be like, "Hey, tell your talent I said hi."
I love that. Mine would have to be something my grandmother told me when I was a kid. So I had this like aspiration of being a grown-up when I was little, and I wanted to be a grown-up. I would wear grown-up clothes, and I wanted to do my hair like a grown-up, and I don't know why, but I was driven for that. And my grandmother kind of snatched me one day and said, listen, you're going to be a grown-up for a real long time, but you are a kid for a very short moment. And as a child, you have passion. Capture that. Own it. Because one day, it's not going to be there. You're going to be an adult for way longer. So be a kid as long as you can. And I found as I got older, I kind of lost that in the back of my brain somewhere. And I realized I was an adult and I didn't like it. And then all of a sudden that voice came back and was like, be a kid as long as you can. And there is no reason why you can't be a kid in a adult's body. So everything I do today is, even though, like I said, I'm cosplaying as a grown-up, I'm a big old nerd, and I love my comic books. Like I said, I still watch Charmed. I have my moments of just being a giddy child because you have control over that as an adult. And that's not something you realize until you're there and you're like, oh, I get it now. This sucks.
I maintain to this day that growing up was the dumbest thing I've ever done.
Thank you.
Adult is just another word for big child. That's what I go by. See, I still have my childish spirit, so let's see how long I can keep it. Can't wait to get old though.
Ash said, you spoke briefly about being friends with failure. Speaking more on that, is there a project or an idea that you were really, really passionate about, but it just didn't work out? And I'm sure there are. Tell us what you learned from that.
So I was raised around creative humans. My mother can make an amazing garment out of scraps. My father, my grandmother, my sisters, they can sing. I danced, but their creativity was fascinating and amazing to watch. And at one point, I connected with my mom, and I'm pretty handy with a sewing machine. I've made several costumes, it led me to cosplay. But I found very quickly, as much as I was passionate about it and as much as I love making costumes and cosplaying, I lost steam fast. And the awakening point is I did a indie film, and we made all the costumes for it. It was a Star Trek film, and again, my inner child lost its mind getting to recreate the original series costumes, by the way. But I found in that moment when I was on set and I'm fixing the clothes and I'm making sure that these people are wearing the right pants and this garb and that the bands are the right, because he's not a captain yet, but yet he was later in the filming, and making sure all those pieces were together. I didn't want to make the costumes. I wanted to run the department, and I wanted to make sure that all of that was on point and matching what the director's vision was and what the writer wanted to portray, and that the actor was able to connect with who they are and that character as a whole. So even though I may have put the costumes on them, I added things to them that made it theirs. And it was at that moment where I went, okay, yes, I may be able to make costumes. I may be able to do this thing. I am a creative at heart, but it allows me to speak to creatives versus being the creative.
I'm perfect. I don't fail. No. I think for me, in this career, I've made a lot of small mistakes, and I've made a lot of big mistakes. But one of the biggest things I've learned from making those mistakes is learning how to turn those, those failures or those mistakes into either something more or turning them into successes, right? Sometimes the accident isn't as much of an accident as you think, and you're harder on yourself than what the reality is. And then trying to change perspective and look on different sides of oh, how does it benefit this side compared to this side, Sure, the set isn't the shade of white it was supposed to be, but it took in the lighting a little bit better and everything like that, and so it's perfectly fine. And in reality, right, I think you can't learn how to succeed until you learn how to fail. I don't think you won't feel that true success until you've gone through like the struggles to get there, which is filled with both smaller successes and small failures, or big failures and big successes. You know, the classic saying, "Rome wasn't built in a day." You know, so that's kind of my perspective on failure. I would talk about more projects I was a part of, but I'm under NDA, so. Yep.
Okay, I want to be like best friends with all these people on the panel because you understood my concept of like go tell your friends said hi, and I'm a big Star Trek fan, huge Star Trek. Like, yeah, I literally, yeah, I'm like, okay. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. I think that the biggest thing for me, like, there are many times when I had an idea for a video or for like a broadcast, and it did not get like the views that I thought something was gonna get, or I didn't get like the traction that I thought I was gonna get, and even though it like makes me sad, like I worked on something and thought that, hey, maybe people might like this, I'm always like, well, I can always just repost it at a different time and see if that changes anything, or tweak this or tweak that. But I think you know, just not being afraid to want to try. I think sometimes too, like, I've learned that if I am afraid to fail, then I'm going to cheat myself out of an experience, because failing means that I tried something at least. It means that I, you know, like went for something and wanted to get it. Like, there are many times when I apply for like sponsorships, or I apply for like, you know, partnerships with like companies, and I don't get it. Like, you know, I have all these like things that I've done, but I can still get passed over, and no, and that's okay. Like, sometimes you're just not the right person at the right time. Just as long as you don't keep trying, you have to keep trying. And I don't let that stop me. I don't let a no stop me. Like, I will keep doing it, like, you know, respectfully and stuff like that. And one other thing I can think of is when I was in college, like, I was the person that if I was doing a group project with, I was not nice. I was like, we're getting an A, and we have to, because I want to make sure I get an A in all my classes. Oh, I would have loved working with you. Yeah, it would. And I remember one of my friends telling me, like, Ash, it's okay if we fail one project. And I was like, no. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn, because, you know, I didn't want to alienate working with people, and I didn't want to be a bad team member. But I had to learn in that moment that, you know, it's important to also be able to communicate with the people that you're working with. But we didn't fail that project, so.
Yeah, see, you don't fail either.
The ironic part is I was the same way in high school. I didn't fail, and if I saw that I wasn't doing it right, I took the lead. So, for example, the yearbook. I joined yearbook because I liked photography, and I thought it would be fun to be able to like get involved more with the school, and very quickly got very frustrated because, one, I wasn't as cool as the other photographer, but then two, people weren't pulling their weight. So I went from being, you know, making some fun, cute things to being the editor-in-chief for 3 years. So
for me, I've never been that person with that, like, I has to be perfect mindset. I mean, I'm hard on myself on a lot of things. Like, this could have been better. I always found, like, I don't know why, like, very early on, I discovered the mindset of, it's okay that it's where it is now, but next time I have to do better, right? Like, I iterate on everything, and there will always be like disappointments and things like that. That was for me, that was my whole thing. But it made, in some ways, the journey a little bit more rewarding in some way. And I love like working with people who are like a little bit harder, like, no, we're gonna do this thing, because it's very inspiring as well, where it's like, yeah, you know what, let's do it. Even if sometimes I'm like, I think it's okay if we do fail this one, but I get it. We're gonna keep trying. We're gonna do it. We're doing it because we want to, not just because of the perfection of it, because we have to. Yeah. You know, and I think that makes it a lot more rewarding, just kind of from my mentality. Also, this is a side comment that has nothing to do with what we talk about, but isn't it weird how some, like, the videos you don't put like as much effort in, they get more views, and then the ones you try, like, you were like, this is gonna be a banger, and then, yeah.
I literally had that moment happen to me yesterday. Like, literally yesterday, I did a video. I was in the park, and I was with a friend, and we were like talking about Oblivion, and yeah, and they like took the camera and then they zoomed in on my face, and I was like, you must be the hero of Kavach. And it was like perfect, one take. And I looked at the video, and I swear to you, I had tears in my eyes laughing for how silly it looked. It looked so ridiculous. And I posted it, and then when I streamed later that night, everybody was like, oh, I love that video. And it literally took us like 10 seconds to make. And then there were videos where I'm like cooking for like a month, and I'm like, it didn't really do that well. Oh, well.
This is when I get to do the wee. Do you know why? It's because you were you. In that moment, you weren't thinking about the planning, you weren't thinking about the execution, you weren't thinking about anything else. You were live in that moment, and your true, authentic self came forward, which means your audience connected with you on a different level. It's amazing how it happens. I mean, you would think after all those years of brand management and planning and putting together the budgets and the timelines and it's being perfect, the thing that'll get the most traction is those moments that you are not thinking about.
Actually, I do. I help with script writing. I learned script writing from David Hayter, who, if people don't know, the voice of Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid. He had some workshops, and I was there for a few days. Really nice guy. Taught me some of the most valuable things that I use to this day when it comes to like stories and things like that. But one of the coolest things about like writing stories and working with people from stories is when I ask them, especially on their big emotional moments, I ask them like, so where does this moment come from for you, right? To get like asking them that, like, what is that genuine like place that you go to as a person when you're writing about this? What makes this personal for you? Or how do you relate, and how do you want it to relate to like your audience and everything? And it's the same thing, like, and really anything, right? Like how, like, what does this mean to you, and being able to bring that out? Because I tell people all the time, like, or like tell my creators and everything, as long as you're enjoying what you're doing, that's the most valuable thing, right? That is what will bring in the people that you want to your community. It'll give you the growth that you're looking for, even if it might be slower sometimes, you know. But that's what I say all the time, is like the best, like those genuine moments.
Be your authentic self. People can connect with it. I mean, I mentioned this earlier. Long gone are the days of putting on the facade and the song and dance and being the spokesperson and da-da-da-da. Nobody connects with that anymore. The world that we live in post-COVID is about human connection, because we all learned as a society, when we are alone, we go bat crap crazy. We need that connection. You need that moment. And if you as a consumer connect with a thing or a person or a brand, it's because it sparked something in here. And so if you're doing all these song and dance and you're not seeing the movement, but all of a sudden you're getting all this traction on just a random one-off comment, it's because that is you, and they are resonating with you. And I love that. I mean, brand management is literally a giant experiment of social interaction and sociology. And to be able to see those moments come together and be like, haha, see, I told you, you are an awesome human, and everybody else agrees. That to me is like inspiring above all things. Okay.
I always held the philosophy, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right.
Correct.
We got like 5 minutes left. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to ask a question of our panelists here?
Yeah. And your goal is to grow and do more. Okay. Gotcha.
If you know, you know. Right?
Yeah.
And I want that community. I want the community of the dorky people, right?
Yeah.
But I don't seem to. I don't know if I'm not. Like, I know I'm playing the right kind of games, but it's the kind of games I want to play, right? That's stuff I want to play.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's difficult to grow if people don't know where to find you. So that's why consistency is important, which is a point that we talked on earlier, and understanding why you're doing it. Like, because we were saying, like, the why, the human connection of talking to people and connecting with people, and you know, having those things drive like what you're doing, like how you were saying, like what's that real moment where you're writing from. It's a very similar thing. So if you understand why you're doing it and you understand why do you want to grow, why do you want to become a creator, it'll help drive some of the things to, you know, help people to find you. So if you know you love anime, you love otaku culture, you love all of those things, are you also, you know, posting authentically in other places to showcase who you are as a person and all of the things that you love and why they're important to you? So I would suggest doing that. And finding your other people. Like, I'm a Twitch gremlin. I live on Twitch and I talk to everybody and I love spending time there and just getting to know the people who are on the platform. And by doing that, they get to know me as well. So that's what I would suggest.
And something else to know, and this isn't meant to discourage or anything, becoming a content creator is really hard because so many people like want to do it. It seems like a lot of people are content creators, but in reality, like, it's very few people. Like, for every, you know, like 10,000 people, maybe one of them is a content creator. But successful content creator. To be more precise, a successful content. However, I find, I said it earlier and I'll say it again, I find the most successful people are the ones who enjoy what they're doing and genuinely like are doing it for the love of it. Not because they want to become like this famous person. Some do, you know, that happens. But what you should treasure the like community that you do build and the people that you bring in, and those people are going to be the ones who bring more people in, and then those people are going to bring more people, and so on and so forth. Same thing as I said earlier, like set 5 becomes 10, that 10 becomes 20, it snowballs. But just keep doing it because you love it, you know. And I think that's where a lot of your success will come from.
What do you consider your most successful stream or VOD, and why do you find it that way?
This is a her question.
Oh, man.
What do you consider your most successful content creation?
Okay.
Why
Okay.
you started that way?
Okay, sheesh. Oh, you know, it's funny you brought up Metal Gear. Yeah. Okay, the first time I did a very first time playthrough of Metal Gear Solid 1, because the story just like captured my brain, right? And there were so many things I didn't expect about the game, but because I had never played it before and everyone was living through me vicariously, and because there were so many people in there who were big fans, and like, you know, thankfully nobody spoiled the game or anything, they just loved seeing my reaction to everything going on, especially the battle where you needed the other controller. And I was like, oh my God. Yes, I was like, what is this video game? This is nuts. So that was just really, really fun. And it was one of the best set of broadcasts I ever had because of all the joy we all had collectively.
So this one is not has nothing to do with my like main job. On the side, I do voiceover. I mentioned before. I actually do voiceover for a Minecraft YouTube channel, which has been really fun. And one of my favorite recordings is one where I got to be the villain, I got to be the supporting character, and I got to be the like catalyst for the story all at the same time, which were all like just different like personalities and weird quirks and things like that. I went from an old man to some crazy dungeon or something like that. I don't know. Here's some powers, kid. To one of the like to the villain, everything, like just going between all those parts and everything. I would say it was one of the most fun recordings I've had and have talked about. But if I were to talk about work, I think one of the most successful streams that I was involved in, was one I did for TwitchCon, where I was running camera backpack for one of our streamers, and they actually came back to me and like, hey, can we send you to like LA for this upcoming stream to be my camera person for that? So I'm going to be doing that next week.
Congrats.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
I don't necessarily do streaming personally, but I would say my biggest success for me would be doing, I'm going to sound so corny, but doing this. Because this is validation that what I'm doing is what I should be doing, but I'm also able to share and help others do what they want to do and grow their passion, which is just another loop into my job of what I love doing. So being asked by Bob to come and speak on these panels and talk to others and help others build their brand is, for me, one of the most successful things I feel like I could be doing. I know, super corny, right?
Make us feel appreciated.
Gotta plug Bob there for a minute, you know.
I see you're taking the ball.
Is there any questions from the stream? Okay, so yeah, we're out of time today. So we want to thank you all for joining us today for our Shao Kahn panel. We hope you enjoyed the discussion.